Hi, I'm Shelby Herval, and this is my Module 5 Understanding My Community slideshow. The standards that I picked were 5.1a and ISTE 1C. The 5.1a talked about gathering information about family demographics and knowledge about students' families and using that information to enhance student learning. I picked this standard because I thought that it closely related with finding all the demographic information that we had to find today. And then the ISTE 1C was talking about advocating for state and local levels of policy programs funding. I noticed that while doing this module, we were looking at a lot of funding and things mentioned on state and local levels of policies and programs that help with those things. I looked at a lot of tables that had to do with how much funding the state gave and for what sort of things. During this module, I found myself getting a little bit frustrated at being able to find information that relates to my school district since it's made up of different communities. We're a consolidated school district with a lot of little different communities. So instead of finding information for every single community, I wanted to try to find information about the school district itself. And so finding that information was a little bit tough. But once I did find some information, it was great to know about my community on a deeper level in terms of economic growth, school population, and those kinds of things. Okay, so to start off, we're going to talk about sociological inventory. For, like I said before, we're made up of a lot of different small communities. We bus in a lot of our kids, and a lot of our parents are commuting to work every day. And I go deeper into that later on. But as a district, our school is located in the city of Leon. We do 4-day school weeks, 8 to 4 every day. We don't get a lot of Mondays off that most other districts do because we take that Friday off every week. We serve about 501 students. I think last time I checked, it's about the elementary is bigger than the high school. And like I said before, we bus in a lot of our students to school. Next are customs and traditions. I broke it down into school customs and traditions and community customs and traditions. School customs and traditions, fall and winter homecoming. We do a blue and gold scrimmage at the beginning of the year, which is a good opportunity for the community to come out and see our volleyball and football teams. We also introduce most of our student athletes as well. Open house is a night before school starts that our kids come in, meet the teachers, those kinds of things. And we usually have a huge turnout for that. We do a plant sale every year through our elementary. We have our own greenhouse and grow our own plants to sell every year. We also run Butler County Ag Day for elementary kids and have a career day for our high school, middle school kids. And we bring in a bunch of people from the community, and it's a great community school involvement day. Some community customs and traditions. We have a Harvest Home Festival every fall. We also have a Booster Club steak feed, which just happened. It's a Booster Club fundraiser, but there's also a lot of people in the community who help out with that. PTO also has an annual fundraiser that they do in the spring usually, and some kind of carnival that includes the school and community. And then we just got done with Trunk or Treat, and that was a great activity for the community and the school as well, because we just bought a building downtown in Leon, and so it was great to see the community and school interact and involve each other. Next is knowing the population characteristics. Like I said before, a lot of our kids are from they're rural kids. So, but with the population characteristics, what I noticed is that we have a lot of people who have some college, but don't have that bachelor's degree. So it may be like a trade school or those kinds of things. We do have a older population within our community, and I'm going to talk more about that when I get into kind of our politics of our community as well. What I found the most common industries were transportation services. So we do have a lot of semi truck driver people who are from Leon and Latham, and but their home base is in Leon and Latham. We do have a bunch of people who work at the school as well. So not only is there community and school interaction of people sending their kids to school, but the school is a big source of jobs for our community. There's not a lot of diversity within our communities. The religion is basically Christian and Protestant for the most part. Communications channels, we use a lot of social media. Our city site is a Facebook page, which I've noticed a lot more people doing in communities of small communities. We have a school app that connects to our social media pages as well. So when we send stuff out on the app, it also connects to all of our social media pages as well. We use a lot of digital media to reach out to our clientele, whereas a lot of other schools I notice have like newsletters or a channel, a city channel, or those types of things. We don't really have that. The big newspaper that is involved with us is the Butler County Times-Gazette, which kind of reaches out to the full county of Butler County, which helps with our spread outness of our communities. Community groups base is a school community group. It provides school grants and scholarships and is community member led. We also have lots of local churches, the Methodist Church, the Christian Church in Leon, who help with after school programs on Wednesdays. They also provide scholarships for our kids as well. Booster Club, elementary PTO. We have a lot of FFA and 4-H kids, so they may do both of those or be a part of both of those organizations. We also have our city council and our senior center. The senior center puts on events such as Meeting Santa, and they do monthly dinners for our seniors, and we try to volunteer and help out through the community and school as well. Leadership for our school district, the big influencing agents are our superintendent, our principals, and our teacher leaders. And the people that they influence most are the staff, students, and parents. As for our community, I would say that our school district influences our community a lot, and so that's why I put our superintendent in there. And the people who are influenced by them are the community members as well as people who are involved with the school. I wanted to highlight our superintendent. He does a great job and has a huge vision for how our school can provide for our community, because something that he's pushed since he's been superintendent is how our school is our community. Since we're a consolidated district, it's hard to find that community base. So instead of the community providing for the school, like in most cases, I would say that our school provides a lot for our community. He is a member of our community. He lives right across the street from our school. He has 3 daughters who are involved throughout the community. He does a very good job of being a visual person for our district and showing that vision and voicing those concerns and opinions of our community. Economic conditions. I got this information from the U.S. Census Bureau. Some things that stuck out is that we have 10% of our children are in poverty, so I thought that was a pretty big amount. Something else was that our medium household income was $52,000. because that 45% between 50,000 to 100,000 is a little misconceiving because we're on the lower end of that spectrum. So I thought that that was a big chunk. There's a big difference between 50,000 a year and 100,000 a year. So I wanted to highlight that we're on the lower end of that middle class when it comes to average income. Our political structure, we had a bond issue that failed last year by 8 votes, and I think it had to do with a lot of the older population and that most of our staff lived outside of our district. I think that was a big play because if we had more of our staff living in district, they would have voted yes for the bond issue. But since we have most of our staff living outside of the district, that didn't sway in our favor. We are redoing our bond issue for this year, so we'll find out on Tuesday if we get our bond passed. Our superintendent's pretty confident about getting it passed this time. Some other political structures are teacher union, which for the most part, it voices a lot of our veteran teachers, so it doesn't really show the full spectrum of our teachers because there's a little bit of a clash of our personalities, I would say, but it has gotten better throughout the years since I've been there. We do have a conservative community, so I think sometimes that sways people wanting to spend money for things. That was a big issue as well when there was a big town hall meeting last year for our bond issue. A lot of those conservative folks wanted to know where all that money was being spent. A lot of people were talking about, well, my students aren't in school anymore, so I don't feel like I need to pay for those that are there now, that kind of thing, which may not be from a conservative viewpoint, but there was that voice of, okay, this isn't serving me, so I don't want to pay extra for it. Next is social tensions, excuse me. I would say that there is some social clashing. There is sometimes that education clash. So people who see education as important and others who may not see that same viewpoint. Social media is a big contention. There's people who voice their opinions on social media, so those might conflict people's interests because they see something on social media and feel like they have to voice their opinion. There's been multiple social media issues where we see parents voicing concerns about things that may be going on at school, but they're not necessarily voicing those opinions to us. Some other social tensions are students using e-cigarettes and drugs and enforcing that. Also, the drug use and illegal activity that happens within our district as well. We're really close to El Dorado, and there's the big prison out there. We just were having a conversation earlier in the week how in the past there were people who were living within our district to get closer to their family members that were within that prison system. And so what a family who has those interactions with prison versus those who may not. So those are different looking circumstances for different families. Extra sources of information, school records are on the KSD report card. We also have all of our school records within our school website. We use the city Facebook page, Census Bureau data, Chamber of Commerce. Our school board meeting minutes are released every month via email to us as staff, and they are released, I think, to the whole of the district. Power structures for school is chain of command. Ideas and consideration are always taken into account. We have a school leadership team so that it's not just a top-down approach. There's multiple people with influence making decisions. So we have that team approach. Community power structures is the city council, city clerk, and the police enforcing those rules and regulations within the city. There is also that level of school and community working together within those power structures as well, closely together. Multicultural issues, we have low diversity. like I've said before, conservative or Republican viewpoints with a few diverse populations. I know some issues in the past. We do have a few minority students within our school, and so how do we voice our opinions or concerns politically without also um, hurting feelings or getting upset and being cognizant of those kinds of things. We have a rural community base. Maybe our multicultural issues might look like poverty versus non-poverty students. It's not a cultural, whereas it is minority students. So I took that as the multicultural issues such as like poverty and rural students. So I focused on those with our career days, Butler County Ag Days, and poverty programs to help with our school social worker. Knowing our power structure, we communicate as a staff and then we communicate with our principals and superintendent. Our principals and superintendent really do a great job of putting people in places to fit their strengths. For example, we have a teacher who has been a principal, but she came back to teaching, has a great love of curriculum development, and so they offered her a supplemental position to do our curriculum planning and stuff like that instead of having that be a principal or a superintendent chosen curriculum. I think that helps delegate so our principals and superintendents aren't getting overwhelmed, as well as putting people in places that they are good at. Measuring public opinion, we had town hall meetings with a bond issue. We have interactions with parents and students, always checking in, keeping up to date with what's going on with kids and situations. Our principal tries to make sure that we reach out to parents not only for negative interactions but positive interactions, and he wants us to stay up to date early and often with our parents, and he really stresses that community and parent involvement not issue, but like that interaction. He really wants us to have those strong community bonds in order to help our students. Public opinion surveys. Our principal sends out opinion surveys to staff. Principal and counselors send out student surveys, but there wasn't very much impact because it was voluntary. I think this is something that we could probably do a little bit better at. I think we usually, instead of sending out surveys, we usually try to touch base with our parents and those in the community instead of sending out those surveys. So that is my presentation, and thank you.